so I've got a question here from Robert Grave. He wants to know, what are some Celtic love and marriage traditions, since we're coming up on Valentine's Day?
Celtic love and marriage traditions.
Well, the oldest is running the gauntlet, basically as a suitor. And this goes for both Irish and Scottish, although the tradition is most well preserved in the Isle of Man. All of the brothers and brother-in-laws and male members of the family line up in the churchyard, and they each pummel the hell out of you before you can reach your bride-to-be at the end. And if you can still walk, or crawling is sometimes permitted, it depends on what region you're in, by the time you reach the end, then you're allowed to get married.
Eric, ladies and gentlemen, peak performance. Don't listen to a word this man says. You almost had me for a little bit.
I know.
Almost had me. I'm like, I've never heard
Hey,
this
it's been
shit.
a long time since
Really?
I indulged in that, okay?
All right. Don't believe a word. out of
Don't you
this
love the
person's mouth.
image, though? You're like, poof, welcome to the family, lad. It's just like...
See, where you lost me was it wasn't just the bride's family.
Mm-hmm.
If it was just the bride's like brothers and father who was allowed to beat you.
It's not much of a gauntlet. I mean, I'm thinking like 6 to a dozen
Understood.
guys, you know.
Yeah, understood, but your family, I don't know. I think my brother would defend me. He would try to help.
Well,
See, if you went into that, like,
see-
your family's allowed to help push you along.
This is what happened with the rough wooing when Henry VIII went after a Scottish bride, and it turned out that they brought all of their family along, and it became a whole war.
No.
Okay, so seriously, wasting your time with that goofiness.
Yes. Symbols.
Symbols or customs and stuff. There's a
Yes.
lot.
Luckenbooth brooch or Lucken.
You go with the-
Lucken. Yeah,
Luckenbooth.
Luckenbooth. Brooches.
Or
it's-
any jewelry.
Exactly. Well, not just any jewelry. You got the Claddagh
Okay. No,
as
no,
a second Pete.
I'm saying any kind of jewelry with a Luckenbooth design on it.
Correct. Yes. A Luckenbooth is a locked booth in Scotland, in Edinburgh. That's where it originated. A man would buy it and then, give it to his betrothed, and that was a symbol of their love. When they got married and had a kid, they would pin it on the baby's little blanket and walk him around.
Yeah, it was basically they called them locked booths because those were the booths used by jewelers at market fairs. So it was a way of keeping their stock secure. And at some point, somebody got in the habit of saying, we're just going to sell these special tokens, and you have to buy it from them directly, and it's usually silver. And they got the nickname of Luckenbooth because that's where you had to go to buy one.
Yep. And then there's the Claddagh, or as Mac would say,
Claddagh.
That's a throwback for you. The the Claddagh brooch, or excuse me, Claddagh ring, started in Ireland. There is an evolution of the meaning. It's with my hands I hold my heart and crown my love, or something. I don't know. It's loyalty, love, and friendship.
Right.
Are the three symbols within it.
Right.
But it's taken on a meaning at some point. It has to be marketing shtick from somewhere. That if you wear it on your right hand facing away versus towards you, and then in your left hand away versus towards you, it means single versus dating versus engaged versus married. Correct.
Yep.
So it took on meaning over time. That's not how it started. So at some point, there was some kind of marketing or story that went with it. I will neither endorse nor deny the story.
If memory serves, Captain. The last, it's been a while since I looked into this, but the last I heard, the tradition of the wearing of the ring and how you wore it may actually have been invented by Irish immigrants to the United States.
Okay.
So it goes back to the early 20th century is the best guess. If I remember correctly, I would want to double check this. There are various legends about the ring itself, that it's named after the village where the jeweler who started selling it came from. And the one legend is that the guy who invented it was actually, he was betrothed to this girl. He was sailing somewhere, and his ship was attacked by Moorish pirates. He wound up in servitude in Morocco and was trained as a silversmith in the household of this guy who bought him. And then when he won his release, he went back to the village of Claddagh and set up his own silversmithy, and was able to then reunite with his beloved and start up a family and a business and stuff. And it took off from there. Probably just legend. The Claddagh is based on hand fastening type rings, of which you can see similar designs that go all the way back to the Roman Empire. So the idea of rings that have two hands clasping is actually pretty ancient. I think
Are they clasping or just?
no, on the Claddagh they're holding a heart, but in most of I forget the name of it. Damn it.
You've done great so far.
They're actually clasping hands, like a handshake.
Right.
So, and it was a symbol of betrothal, or a contract or whatever, or friendship. So when I think of this kind of stuff, obviously I think that the big one that comes to mind is hand fasting, which a lot of people are into nowadays. The history of where it comes from is a little bit muddied. It was not, in fact, a betrothal for a year and a day. There are different kinds of marriages in medieval to Renaissance period Scotland and Ireland in Scotland before the rise of the Presbyterian Church, who basically put a kibosh on everything. But there were different kinds of engagement arrangements. And a hand fasting was literally just a handshake agreement saying, yep, we'll get married at some point. And there's a lot more to it than that. We're going to do some content on it, so I'm not going to spill the beans on it now. But the idea that it is a traditional marriage kind of marriage ceremony is actually more of a modern invention, especially using the whole cord thing. It's still super cool, but it's not like some ancient Celtic pagan tradition. It's not. Sorry.
Is that where tying the knot came from?
It is, but that is again not as old as people think.
Right.
Okay. What else was I gonna say about it? Yeah, I mean, marriage by elopement was a big deal. The blacksmith in your village could marry you. Up until the Presbyterians, put the kibosh on all that stuff.
After he hammered out a ring?
Yeah, you did not have to go. You did not have to have a priest for a law of history. You just had to have a witness, and a blacksmith was typically the guy. And there's one village in Scotland that people would go to. They would elope to, and I can't remember the name of it now. But little things like that is very, very common.
Insert village name here.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. There's a lot.
It's all good.
Listexia gets to me sometimes.
Hey,
I just don't remember.
you rattled off. I remembered the
Yeah, but I
Claddagh
want to be
thing.
more precise.
I understand, but we're live, dude. It's tough to remember all this stuff.
Right.
Recall, dude. People out there in the interwebs, recalling all of these facts. I am more impressed with Eric than you know of the entire story of the Claddagh. I knew what you were saying about the guy who was, enslaved and taken away, but I didn't remember, Morocco. I didn't like.
Okay.
You got a lot more facts than I got.
Thank you. My favorite, though, if we're talking about tokens, is actually Welsh love spoons. That's a tradition that goes back to the Welsh maritime traditions. So like 18th century, I'm pretty sure, maybe earlier, and they still do that today. Nowadays, most people just buy them from craftsmen as a decorative item, but they are amazing, and some of the historical examples are just phenomenal. And the idea that you needed to make one of these things as a traditional love token to somebody you're interested in, saying, "Hey, you want to date?
You're on
you
the
want to
ship.
date?
Yep.
Yeah, while you're on the ship, while you're on the job." And the theory was it showed that you were patient, it showed that you were skilled, and you were serious, because these are things that were not necessarily easy to carve. So I thought that was pretty cool. I've always thought Welsh love spoons don't get as much attention as they deserve.
I liken Welsh love spoons to trench art, as well as to scrimshaw.
Yep.
For sailors and up in the New England area.
It's true.
Yeah,
It's true.
there's a lot of really cool, like, hey, if you're on a ship or if you're in a trench and you're waiting for something to happen, like, what do? You got to do something with your time. So art is a great way to do pass the time.
Yep.
So it's a neat kind of parallelism there. Yeah. Cool. 12. No. All right. The short version. Do you love love? Let me know in the comments. And what kind of love symbols did we miss? Also, remember, subscribe. It helps us out.